Irreverent, entertaining, cool. You're listening to LA Talk Radio. You're listening to Amber Lynn, rockin' sexy uncensored, only on LA Talk Radio.
All right, happy Thursday, everybody, and welcome back to Rockin' Sexy Uncensored. We are coming at you live once again on LA Talk Radio. I'm your host, Amber Lynn, and it's a pleasure to be here with y'all tonight. RNSU working overtime again to bring our listeners celebrity guests and co-hosts from the cutting edges of entertainment, movies, and music. Tonight is no exception, folks. We have an epic guest lineup in the house tonight. The celebrity hairdresser. I wonder why. Look at his hair, right?
Me?
Dubbed the Messiah of Makeover for his historical transformation on Paula Jones during the Clinton sex scandal. God, that seems like almost nothing now, right?
No, really.
Right? But it was huge. And his work on so many other notable A-list celebrities, Pamela Anderson, Stevie Nicks, the late Anna Nicole Smith, Marilyn Manson, on and on and on. He is also a successful recording artist with Trax Records. His hit song, Sin, featured in the Vamp Bikers Trey trilogy soundtrack. He has appeared in Vamp Bikers Trey, the movie, right?
Yes.
Lito Brancato was in that. He was also a previous guest on Rockin' Sexy. Hair. Wonder why they put him in hair, right? And Japanese borscht. I said it. I can't believe it. I had to practice it, right? He now has a new hit fashion and entertainment show on Amazon Prime called Trend Setting with Daniel DeCrisio. Please say hello.
Hey, thank you, Amber. Love to be here. I'm so glad to see you.
I know. And you look great. Your hair
Thank
looks
you.
great.
But the traffic was a killer, but I made it.
Was
so.
it? Oh my
God. Took so long. But you know what? Anything for you.
Oh, thank you. And I'm so glad to have you back in the house again. And thank you for coming in and doing the show. We got a big show going on tonight, guys. We'll tell you about it in just a minute. And tonight, our other featured guest, he is best-selling author, award-winning reporter, a former Washington Post writer under Watergate investigator Bob Woodward, also worked years as contributing editor to Rolling Stone. He has served more than 2 decades for Esquire magazine. He's co-authored more than 10 books. Several of his stories inspired films and documentaries, such as Boogie Nights with Mark Wahlberg, Wonderland, which starred Val Kilmer and Lisa Kudrow, as you know, and Veronica Guerin with, who was it? Kate Blanchett was in that film, right? Sorry, tripped me.
That is a lot of great pronunciation, I have to say.
I'm telling you,
great.
not bad.
I'm just sitting here thinking I'd be like, blah, 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 all over the page at this
We're going to
point.
get to the jokes
So
in just
thank
a
you
minute,
for that.
right? Because the most important thing, he wrote the 2011 Playboy magazine article titled The Porn Identity, which featured me.
Yes, it
That
did.
Amber
featured me.
Lynn.
He's done many celebrity profiles on the likes of Jack Nicholson, Robert De Niro, Brad Pitt, Angelina Jolie. Not bragging. Please welcome Mike Sager.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. And I think it's the best part of all is for a journalist, when you remain in contact with your former source and you move forward into a more humane and human relationship, which proves that journalism can be real and it can be true. So we're
That's
part of that testament of that. So I think that's what's really cool about our continued association.
And thank you for coming on the show tonight. And now I get to give back to you, and we can talk about your projects and get them out there. By the way, guys, his number one best-selling book of all time, The Devil and John Holmes and Other True Stories of Drugs, Porn, and Murder. This is a guy who has written and researched and authored books about some of the most famous people that walk the face of the earth ever in mainstream. And look at that.
And then I just always have to wonder to myself, is it only because of the size of his penis that it sells? That it has nothing to do with any of the work I had to do.
Well, we
because,
can talk about that.
you know, there have been so many
I'm
other
sure.
stories that I've done too that no one like cares about to this degree. So, but you know, I thank the good lords of publishing for every person who still cares about anything that I do, because you know
How
we
long has the
create
book
stuff.
been out now?
Oh, well, the story first came out in in the 90s.
Okay.
And
And the
then
book?
the book came out. It was the
'Cause I know I've
the
heard of this book
25th
before.
anniversary. Well, this was on the 25th anniversary. I reissued it, and I you know, did the thing you do. You put the cuts back in. This was published in 14, so damn, it's near 30 years now that the story came out.
Wow.
And then
He was still alive at that time.
no, I actually never met the guy, which is really weird because I know so much about him.
I can tell you a
Amber.
few stories. I worked with him a couple of times, and we'll get to that during the show because there is a very significant story that is part of my autobiography that will be coming out next year. That I actually was one of the last women who worked with John Holmes in Italy with Cicciolina, the Italian member of parliament who was a porn star. They gave a seat in parliament. She's still a friend of mine on Twitter right now. Hey, Chico, if you are listening out there, and we were the last women to work with him, and it was a definitely. We'll talk about it. Anyway, Daniel DeCriscio's got a new show
On so many
out,
levels.
right? On Amazon Prime. It is called
Oh,
Trend
wow.
Setting with Daniel DeCriscio. It's a fashion and entertainment show,
Yes.
right? You're doing commentary. And
I do every subject that's trending on the internet, basically. That's like a trend that the public is following. And my latest show that's coming out, and will be out in a couple of weeks. It's already done. You know, it's going to be out in a couple of weeks. Is going to take on politics, today's politics, which is a little chancy there because everybody has such diverse opinions
Well,
about
if
it.
it's a fashion show, why
But
would you
no,
take
no,
Well,
no,
you're
I
like
don't
just
just do
wading right in.
fashion.
You're just wading right in, aren't you? You're like,
well-
fuck it, I'm just going for it.
Of course, well, you know, I do everything. I do fashion, lifestyle, whatever is on the internet that everybody's jumping on or being influenced by. So I was thinking of other ideas, and then all of a sudden I'm like, you know, politics is such a strong thing going on, and everyone's afraid to talk about it, and it's a trend online. I mean, everybody's haters and whatever
It
they're
doesn't
into.
seem like they're afraid to talk about it to me. Every time I go on social media, it's like, oh my God, you guys, they're still harping on the same three things.
Oh, I know.
Yeah, but you know what? If you think about it, all the people who do not do that online, who don't post, who don't put all this raving stuff on there,
Mhm.
like every one of us, you and I, it's like, it's agitating, like what's going on? It just doesn't feel
Well,
that
I tried
good.
to stay
So,
out of
you
it.
know,
I tried to stay out
this
of
is
it.
rockin' sexy, isn't it?
know.
Hey.
I tried to stay out of it, but I got David Eisenhower as my guest on the show.
Uh-huh.
So Camp David was named after him. And I had him talk about things. And I also went to the public on Hollywood Boulevard. And I asked them if they run for 2020 for presidents, you know, they run for the presidency of 2020. What's their platform? I want to hear what the public's thinking. And it was amazing, the responses I got. But I'm going to touch every subject.
I know what they're thinking because it's trending all over social media.
But
That's all you hear.
You know what? I was surprised, though.
Right.
I was surprised by some of them. I really was. But and David Eisenhower came up with some really good ideas. Even when I asked him about, do you think the hate will continue? And his answer is just phenomenal. I was like amazed myself. Seriously.
Wow.
So
What
you
did he
know,
say?
Oh, you have to listen. You have to watch it.
He wants to draw you in.
When will it
It's
be on
called-
again?
It's called
In a couple weeks.
teaser,
I'll be
Mike.
putting it out there.
It's called a teaser,
It's a
Mike.
teaser. I
He
could unscrew
throws
my
you out a
shirt.
little teaser to tell you that the show and what it's going to be about, and then we want
I'm
you
the
to come
rube
and
in the
see it.
audience who shows interest. Don't you
What
see?
am I in for tonight? By the way, listeners, you are welcome to call in and join the fun. We love getting calls from our listeners. The number is 323-203-0815. You can speak to our guests. You can dance naked and tell us all about it. You can do whatever you want. I want to welcome, we have CBS News who is in the house with us tonight in case you see them clamoring to get their equipment back out the door. They're doing a news piece.
There's so much talk
and
of
we wanna
clamoring
welcome them.
tonight.
Right? There's clamoring. Lots of clamoring.
Is
think
that
the
like
clam-
that's a studio term?
No, I think it's like something I picked up somewhere. So
I like it.
I'm clamoring
It's
this
good.
week. You know, I'll tell you, I have been busy, and just like wearing so many different hats between CBS and having you on the show and running the autobiography campaign. And now the subject comes up with all of this stuff, you know, and then of course we always have to bring Daniel back. We have to have Daniel back in the house.
Daniel's
many
always
times.
in the house.
We love having Daniel. If we don't have him on for a while, right? Everybody talks about it. They say
Sort of
we're-
like Ed McMahon,
right?
you know.
Yeah, she's my Ed McMahon. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, it's better than what you said a minute ago when I said I had a lump in my throat. I was like,
What was his name?
Oh, is that what you were going to say? I thought you were saying, you know, like a lump. When they have a lump.
Hey, it's rockin' sexy. What else would it be? No?
Right? No, you got to talk about all that stuff. So, trendsetting, you've got a
Yeah.
new show coming out. You're
Mhm.
releasing. When is it releasing?
Well, I already have the premiere episode that was already out, and that was the one on the big butts and the small waist and the big boobs on the girls and what's going on with that trend from the internet, and if anybody's being influenced by these looks, by the guys with their steroid bodies or the girls with all their equipment, you know.
Would
So-
I be able to
Well, all
watch
the
this in the
girls
office?
have equipment. Now they've got equipment for the guys. They've
That's
got,
what I'm
like,
talking about.
pec
That's right.
implants,
That's what I
calf
covered.
implants, all
Yes,
that
I covered
great
that in the premiere
good stuff,
episode. And now I'm
right?
going to the political episode now, but get that out of the way. But, you know.
Go for it, man. You got to have some substance. People got to stand up and have a little substance. It's good.
Yeah, and I've been, watching from the
You
side.
can still look good,
oh,
you
yeah,
know, and
yeah,
do
yeah.
cool things. Just have some substance.
He does a lot of things too. He's got you've got the music going on. Are you
Yeah.
with Punk Bunny still?
Yeah, we play, but I haven't played since like 2 months. It's been last show was the whiskey.
Are you doing stuff with Punk Bunny,
Oh,
or
yeah.
are you focusing back on your own stuff?
No,
again?
but back on my own. I'm always on my own.
Okay.
Always, but that's fun. That's like
You
a
just
little.
featured on the guitar with the Punk
Well, I'm a
Bunny.
band member, as I'm told. So whenever I play, I can play whenever I want.
Right.
So it's up to me. But the thing is, so we played the whiskey the last show with me, and now I'm back to my music, and now I have to go to New York next week for the premiere of Japanese Borscht.
that is the film that you shot last
Yeah, so
year.
Michael Musto and Sylvia Miles is going to
Oh,
be
I
in it.
love
Believe it or
Michael.
not.
I know him well back
Do
from
ya?
the New York days in journalism.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah. Yeah,
I
Is he
guess
an
you'll be
actor?
seeing him.
He's
Say
he's
hello
like,
for me,
yeah, I will
man.
because I'm in his scene. I'm in a few scenes, and I'm in one of his scenes where it's the gay mafia. He's the boss, and I'm his little side man thing. So it's
Oh,
kind of
really?
fun.
Oh,
Oh,
this is
yeah,
great.
and we go through Rockefeller
You're his
Center.
side piece, the
Yeah.
boss's side piece.
Yes,
That's
I'm the
nice.
side boy.
You're his
Musto, what's up,
what
man?
do they-
I'm
what
like,
do they
I
call
can't.
that?
This is
Like,
great.
Your
This is
goumion?
great.
Your goumion?
Yes, yeah, there
Your
you go.
goumion. Is that what is that how you say it?
I don't know. I'm Jewish.
Okay, but it doesn't matter. Everybody knows that word.
But
It's
then I
called my
also
goumion.
I also sing at the end of the movie. I think it's gonna be at the end. I don't know, but
And I
we'll
said
be
that with
doing
a
with
lump
the
in
gun.
my
You know,
throat.
you and the lumps.
Oh, that a lump in my throat.
God, you were busy.
Right. Yeah, that's amazing. Congratulations,
Thanks.
another film coming out.
Yeah, so next week I'll be in New York City for the premiere, and yeah, and I'm gonna also one of my songs is supposed to be on the album for the end of the movie, the soundtrack.
And that'll
That'll be on tracks.
So you're putting out another soundtrack.
Well, they are, and one of my songs will be on it.
Okay. And
So,
what's
yeah.
that called?
That's
Well, it's
legit.
a Japanese borscht movie soundtrack.
I love the
movie
title.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Title's
I know. I was a
dope.
little wild about that title. I'm like, Japanese borscht? What's that about?
It sounds
I
a
didn't
little
even know
like
what it
a
was.
band. It sounds like a band in like the late '70s, like Bad Brains or Japanese Borscht. Or,
Oh.
you know, it could be.
Yeah.
Could have been any of those kind of groups.
The funniest story though I have about Michael with me was we were going to Staten Island to film, and I was driving him over. We both, went together, and all of a sudden I'm like, I want a bagel. And he's like, so do I. So we pull in his bagel shop in Staten Island, right? And we go in, and all of a sudden I'm like, he goes, do you feel as uncomfortable as I do walking in here? I go, oh, fuck them. I go, let's go in here. Because my hair was all, because like we don't look like the normal people walking. We walked in, it was so nice. Everybody was so cool. And then we had a great time, but it was just a little awkward at first. It was like very suburban, we're like,
Right.
So, but no, we had a great time. And then we drove around and took pictures in front of the big mansions in Long Island. I mean, not Long Island, sorry, Staten Island. And then we went to shoot and we had a great time.
Well, it's a tiny nation, Staten Island.
Yeah.
But I think they're tolerant in their own way.
So how do we get tickets to your premiere, or do you want to let the fans know how? They
Oh yeah,
can go?
Anthology.
Is it
It's
open to the
online.
public?
Yeah, you can get tickets. It's online. It's Anthology Films on 2nd Street in New York City, and that's
Okay.
where we'll be.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So go out and see Daniel DeCrisio.
If you're
you
in
can
the
get a
area.
picture with him. You can get your picture with Daniel. He's always very nice about things like that. Hold on one second. We got a call coming in. Let's go ahead and take it. Welcome to Rockin' Sexy Uncensored. You are live with Amber Lynn.
Oh, hello there, Amber Lynn.
Hello
This is
there.
Charlie Brown.
Charlie Brown from Tampa, Florida.
How are you doing?
How you doing, Charlie Brown? What's going on?
Oh, not much. I'm listening to you guys and stuff. Are you talking about politics?
Oh,
Well,
I didn't.
Oh, no.
my thing is homeless veterans. I wrote to these different billionaires of these different 500 companies and asked them about helping out homeless veterans, and haven't heard a word from them. Not even a fuck you letter or anything like that.
Mm.
Wow.
I'll shout out the homeless veterans.
That's right. My dad
I
was
spent a lot of
veteran.
time right in the field with Marines, and spent a lot of time
Uh-huh.
at the Wounded Warriors Barracks in Camp Lejeune, North
Yeah,
Carolina.
my father was a veteran. And you know what happened? I had an experience very recently where I was coming out of a store, and I had stopped to grab something like puppy pads or whatever. Anyway, there was a veteran that was sitting there, literally like homeless, and I think his leg was injured or something. And I was coming out, and I reached down and I said, "Sir, I'd like to give this to you. I'm embarrassed. All I have, because it's cash. You have to give him some cash." And I said, "All I have is a $5 bill, but that's all I have on me. I'm a little bit embarrassed. Is that okay?" Because I didn't want to offend him, because he's a veteran. Okay,
Right,
this
right.
guy fought for our country. If you don't got, a couple of bucks or a $5, but I was embarrassed. It was only a $5, and I said, "My father was a veteran, and I just want to thank you for your service." And he looked at me and he goes, "Ma'am, thank you so much." He goes, "I can eat for a week on that."
Wow.
And I
Yeah,
was
I know.
so
and
affected
I,
by that. Like
I
when he,
because like the other day I was outside a store, and I try and help the veterans as much as I can. This one guy came up to me. He says, "Sir," he says, "I'm a veteran." He said, "I'm not going to lie to you." He says, I need a drink." I said, "Oh, okay." So I gave him, he said, "How much you need?" He said, "I just need $1." So I gave him $1. He went in the store, and he came back out, and he handed me the $1 back. And I said, why you give me the $1 back?" I said, "You don't have your beer." He says, "Well, the taxes is $1.50." So I gave him another $1. And he went in and bought him a beer and came back out and gave me the 50-cent change.
Isn't that amazing? By the way, Charlie Brown, I just want to thank you. That brings us to Charlie Brown. Thank you for your contribution to my autobiography Indiegogo campaign. Charlie Brown.
I'm not done with that yet.
Right. Charlie Brown picked up an awesome full color 8x10 photo. Fans, you can get out there and support my project and pick yourself up a great 8x10 photo. There's all kinds of great swag in the perk store. Tons of different things. You can get posters. You can get the t-shirt I slept in. You can have dinner with me, dining and dancing. There are autograph sessions involved. There's all kinds of cool ways fans can support my book project and get their hands on Amber Lynn memorabilia. Go to igg.me/@/Amber Lynn Go campaign. And I just want to say thank you very much, Charlie Brown, for stepping up and being a part of it. Because, people are kind of like, what? Well, I want to do something. I'm getting all these messages from people that are like around the campaign. And I'm like, guys, just go to the campaign. It's cool. You can go to the campaign. Okay. You don't have to test me.
You're
You don't have
welcome,
to,
babe.
right? But
And,
thank you so
yeah,
much.
you're welcome. And I'm not done contributing to it yet. I'm not done yet
Awesome.
on that.
Awesome. By the way, guys, we are 37 days away from the campaign ending. And if we don't make it, we're just going to do another one. Okay?
You're not getting away that
Right?
easy.
We are going to get this project
I would like to
done.
hire you as the marketing manager
Right?
for my content brand. If you have some side time, I think we should
That's
discuss
right.
Hey, I even bought one. Remember one of those
Right?
pictures? So.
Right. So guys, get out there. At least you can
Get a
give me-
picture.
You can wave, you can hug me,
And
you
gentlemen,
can
she's
blow me a
great.
kiss, you can
She's
write a
great.
foreword in my book, you can sleep in my t-shirt, you can take me out to dinner and dancing. Damn, boys. Girls, it's all there. Okay.
Would you like to
Go to the
offer
perk
me
store.
on your website as well? Can
Right.
would that
By
be
the way,
for any of those?
right,
Some of
I
those
can sell
things.
off the guys if I have to. The only thing
Pimp
that
us
is
out,
not
babe.
the only thing that is not for sale or available is Mr. Mighty. Okay. But by the way, guys, just letting you know, and I just want to say thank you, Charlie Brown. I do have to jump off the phone because I've got Mike Sager in the house tonight. I've got Daniel DeCrisio, and they have projects that I want to get out there. So please listen
All
to
right,
the
babe.
rest of
Kiss
the show.
yourself for me, okay?
Thank you so much, Charlie Brown. Thank you, honey. We'll talk
Right.
to you
Take it
soon.
easy, Charlie
Good
Brown.
night.
Yeah, see.
Yeah.
Charlie Brown is awesome. Charlie Brown is such a great guy, and he is a fan who's been around for a
Cool.
long time. You met him
Did I?
at the party. We had that one big birthday bash. That was
Oh,
open to
really? At the
public.
Rainbow?
Yeah, remember?
He's the one.
He
The
flew out from Florida with the shoes.
The shoes.
he's
the
the one
red
the
shoes.
cartoon character's
Yeah.
based
Oh,
on,
hey,
right?
Charlie. I know
Yeah,
him.
he's the one. Speaking of things that things are based on, I want to talk to you about the stories, these amazing stories. This is a guy who has profiled, like I said, some of the most famous people that have ever walked the face of the earth. What does that feel like to you when you walk into
And the most well hung.
sit down? Well, the most well hung. But he didn't meet him in person.
It doesn't
I did.
matter.
But
I know
let's
you-
talk
Well,
about that. What was it like? Like for me, first of all, I once met Jack Nicholson at the Lakers game,
Yeah.
and I don't care who you are. Okay,
No, it's Jack Nicholson. baby.
it's Jack Nicholson.
Yeah, I met him too.
You know, you get a little pee-pee in your pants.
Get a little leakage
Especially
there.
when he raises his eyebrow and he gives you that red rum look, and you'd be like, oh, I think I just peed my pants. I mean, what
You
does
know,
it feel like?
I'll tell you something. I worked for probably 30, 25 years as a journalist before I even interviewed a celebrity. I did all kinds of stories about real people and a lot of crime stories. And over time, I started like sort of specializing in something people started calling anthropological journalism, where I would, when crack first came out, I lived with a crack gang for like
Why? You
6
could have just
weeks.
came over to my house.
Well, that was me too. You know, those I spent a lot of time with my friend Rick James as well.
Right.
Oh, me too.
But I've done a lot of stories, but I've also done a whole like class of stories like about a 92-year-old guy or a 17-year-old and you know, the celebrity stories are great because you get to kind of look at them and
And they're just like anybody else.
well, they're not. They're
Mhm.
prettier. They have like smaller butts, perfect butts. They have like when I met
Even
Brad
Robert
Pitt.
De Niro.
Well,
Oh,
When
thank you.
When I
No.
met Brad Pitt, and you know, we had a mutual
thank
friend.
God you talked about it because I was dying to know about Brad Pitt.
Well,
Right?
I mean, the guy was wearing these T-shirts, and you see me, I'm wearing two T-shirts. But his two T-shirts were made of the finest material. I couldn't really visually identify it, and they like laid across his like perfectly manicured.
Like Daniel DeCrisio.
Underwear shirts, though.
Right.
Underwear shirts.
And you know, it was funny because it was just kind of like a stupid little thing, and he was telling about like things that Brad Pitt recommended. We met over at the small small airplane in Santa
Van Nuys?
Monica, and
Van Nuys Airport.
the airport in Santa Monica where the
San- oh.
celebrities like to fly it. And
Mhm, mhm.
Angelina had a plane there, but Brad was. I wrote the story, and for Esquire for years, and before that even GQ. As a men's magazine writer, you just always tried to get like the sex in there. It's had to have the sex. And I wrote the lead about Brad Pitt as if I would write about, any, beautiful woman for Esquire. I wrote these things for, several stories. Angelina, I once licked my finger and licked off the makeup on the side of her arm. It was a very
just did it to
sexy
me.
moment. I didn't lick my finger first though this time.
That was.
She's
Um,
cool,
you were-
though,
No,
right?
she's nice.
She
She's
had
very
this
nice.
makeup over
she's cool,
covering
and-
this thing of Billy Bob. It was like after Billy Bob,
Mhm.
and she was
But
available.
before Brad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was
Okay.
before Brad. She only had the first kid, and she had just gotten her pilot's license, and she was got this plane that had a parachute in it. So like if the plane went down, the plane had a parachute. It's
Oh,
like
cool.
some kind of great parachute. And she was like she'd just done that movie in like Africa or whatever, and she was really into like trying to go and like save people who needed legs and stuff, and
Right.
like drive and fly them to
Yes.
where they needed to go to get their new leg, and she had a whole plan.
Wow.
But
met-
she was like pretty intense.
Yeah.
Well, I met Brad Pitt one time when he was with Gwyneth Paltrow back then. And we were on the corner and we're in Beverly Hills crossing the street. And I was like all dressed up, I was going somewhere, but he was just undone with Gwyneth and they're out, whatever. And he just started this conversation with me. I turned, I'm like, oh my God, it's fucking Brad Pitt's talking to me now. I didn't understand. I was like, he's so
He
nice.
I don't know. I'm
He's
sort of
so
like the
cool.
opposite of
Let
that.
me tell you something about Brad, my take on the situation, because he reminds me of my brother. He has this thing that my brother had, and my brother was like that.
Mhm.
I walked into Dan Tana's one day, and Elliot Gould, I was with my brother, and Elliot Gould was there. I was like, hey, blah, blah, blah. Apparently, I don't know if I should say this. Anyway, there's something about like marijuana, like, you got any smoke? Whatever it was going on. It was some kind of thing that only you guys universally know, But he knew everybody, and everybody knew Buck Adams, and he had that whole kind of that thing where it's just like you're just likable. Brad Pitt has that essence.
Well,
And he's
that's
just a
the thing
likable
with
guy.
celebrities though is, and being a journalist is, they're kind of like over that, and they're over like that everybody knows them, and they really are there because they've got something coming out and they're doing the publicity,
Right.
and they don't really want to. I mean, every once in a while you get I did a profile of Peter Dinklage a couple years ago, and he basically, I don't know why, but
Is
he
that his real name?
yeah, it is.
Dinklage.
And he was great. And then there's been others. I did one of Roseanne a number of years ago. It's in my book called Revenge of the Donut Boys. You could see everything on MikeSager.com. You could find links to everything. But there's the celebrities.
He did one on me. He profiled me, and it was amazing.
That's easily found in The Devil and John Holmes. I keep
Get the
forgetting
book,
we're
you guys.
not
Yeah,
just
there's
doing radio.
25th anniversary what's it called?
Reissue.
Reissue. And there is the story
Along with
among
four other bonus stories.
4 other bonus stories. And
Your
I did-
name's in several articles in that, actually, and your
And I
name's in
wanted
the.
to talk to you about one thing that I definitely put down as well. It
Please do.
includes Little Girl Lost,
I
about
was
the life
just
and
gonna
death
say
of
Savannah.
beautiful porn starlet Savannah. My brother, Buck Adams, let's go back to his name again. We're thinking of him. By the way, October 28th is the anniversary of my brother's death. It'll be 10 years. So,
Wow.
yeah. It includes, he made the movie called Little Girl Lost about her.
I wrote the story.
You wrote the
about
story?
her. Nobody ever bought the rights, but
Oh.
they're available.
Damn it. Anyway,
That was another story.
I was less than 10 days before she died. They called me and asked me to have a conversation with her, which I did by phone. I talk about it in my book.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, I
Wow.
tried to talk to her, and
Mhm.
there was no getting
way in.
through, unfortunately. And rest in peace, that little angel's soul,
Yeah.
because she was in a lot of pain and distress. But I had a conversation with
She's
her.
quite a character, and the story was quite a story of the times and the Vivid Girls and
Right.
Yeah.
that whole
And
thing.
she was a
just,
beautiful,
was
amazing
beautiful.
force of life and,
Yeah.
and wild.
and plus she was
irreverent.
like she was a crossover too, because she went out with what's his name, the comedian, the funny comedian.
Pauly
She
whose
went out with
mom
Pauly
is-
Shore.
Yeah.
Yeah, Pauly Shore, and she also went out with that drummer guy. I'm really bad with names, but
The
he was
drummer
a
guy.
pretty
The
mainstream
drummer guy. You mean Slash?
No.
The guitar guy. You mean Slash, Mike?
Yeah, you know,
The
it's one of my.
greatest guitar player, arguably, of all time.
I think it's
Yeah.
something that's often endured me to the celebrities I've written about. I've forgotten their names midway through. What's your name again? No, I actually just did a story about like
You recognize Slash by
the
the
greatest
hat. He's always
rodeo-
got that top hat on, he rolls in. Yes, I'm not sure, but I think that was allegedly.
Allegedly.
He might have been married.
Allegedly.
He might have been married at the time. That could have been allegedly too, right? He won't admit it anymore. But yeah, so that was crazy. And then the porn identity. And here, I just wanted to mention this because it is a great story, the story that he did on me. And it was, a piece of it was in Playboy.
Well, you know, it's really funny because if I'll back up again. There's like 4 stories in here, and you mentioned 2 of them. So the third story was written. You know, the research was done when I was 35 years old. I had a party for my birthday, and I had been dating this woman for about a year and a half or whatever, and I surprised her at my own birthday by doing the engagement thing.
Oh, well.
And then
Did she say yeah?
and she said yeah, and I had the ring for her. My mother was downstairs. She had the ring. I had to get it from her. And
Sounds so
and then it was funny.
I
You know, we
love
were
that.
living in L.A. and I had a house in D.C., so we had the party in D.C. And then I had to go off to this assignment in Pensacola, Florida. So she flew home to California, and I went to a swingers convention in Pensacola it was very early in the days of swinging and the first amateur videos. That it was like early on when it started like to fuck with the professional people. There started to be a force, and I went for Esquire, and I went to this thing, and it spread through the group that, you know, I had just gotten engaged, and it became like this thing. Who's gonna get him? I mean, and the swingers were from, you know, they were from
Oh, that's not very nice.
well, they were from like Alabama, Georgia, like the Panhandle. There were some really nice looking people, but there
Did
were
he
also
get you?
some people who are like the guy with the green teeth, and he's like, "You go
Oh,
and
the
get with my
trolls.
wife, ain't you?" And
Isn't
I'm
it,
like-
it is amazing how that does go down at swinging parties. I'm not a swinger. I don't have anything
But you know
against
what was
swingers.
cool?
I
See, the
don't.
thing that's cool about all
But
that.
it was when they did that with me the couple of times that I went to swing parties and it was at like the heights of my career. Even
Well,
though
yeah,
it
but I'm
still
just like
is.
this 5'5"
Even though it still
bald
is, I
guy,
want it on
so.
record. Okay, they looked at me like I was like a giant smorgasbord. It made me nervous. Like,
But you know
walk
what?
in and they're like, "You're just."
They're
I was like,
salivating
"Somebody
and-
hold the door open, please." I'm so out of here. But yeah, they do that. They do.
But you know, the other thing that's interesting is though,
That's a little
there's
more-
everybody's there, and there's a set of rules for everyone, and that's the whole thing. If you like break it down, the thing is like everybody's like really respecting everyone under those conditions. What do you want to do? What do you want to do? There's no like, because out in the real world, it's all fucked up because like nobody really knows, like nobody's telling the truth.
Including in
There's
porn
not
now.
the
They'll
thought.
grab you by the
There's
throat.
not the
and they'll
thought bubble
double
over
True.
your head. Don't you wish you knew what the person
Yes.
was thinking? So in
No.
the confines of this thing, like everybody was like so fucking cool because they were just about like truth and like being
They
about
say
what they
that.
enjoyed.
But do
And-
they really mean
Well,
it?
you know, they were kind, but they were like, I remember being on the phone.
Have you
and
ever been to a swing party, Daniel?
I'm at one right now.
You are at one. If this is a swing party for you,
It's
babe,
This is
happening.
it, baby. This
Right.
is
it's
it.
on. But I think this was funny because I'm down at the swing
We're
party.
from
And
West Hollywood. This stuff doesn't even phase us. They
Hey,
walk around with tasers.
You
to
got to
get
buy
rid-
my book, okay?
Right?
You buy my
Yeah.
book, and he's writing it, so
In
you'll
West
see. it's on my-
Hollywood, they walk around with tasers, okay? Because if you don't...
Titters or tasers? Which one? Oh.
Tasers. You reach for the wrong pocket and you get tased.
So anyway, that was the story I wrote after I got
They're
engaged.
just trying to protect their padding.
That was the story I wrote right after I got engaged
And then
about
she
the
knew
thing, and then 18 years later, when I got divorced, my friend, and also it's interesting to note that Savannah, that was due. I in those days you put a disc into FedEx and you sent it up to New York. I lived in D.C., so we did that on the way to the hospital with my wife having our son. And I had been
Oh, so
working
she
on a
married
story about Savannah all this time. And she's like 9 months pregnant, and I'm carrying these cassettes of Savannah's life work. I had to be familiar with her work, of course, to do a proper story. So that's in here. And then the final story is my young editor friend from Playboy says, why don't you just go on the road and find like some of these iconic and it was really because editors are funny because they like get reporters to do what they're kind of like itchy about, like he wanted to find these people, but he wanted someone to do it for him.
They want to keep their hands
And
clean.
then, yeah. So and I had this cross country thing where I visited Kay Parker and you and Asia Carrera and Nina Hartley.
Right.
And it was great because I hadn't my wife left, I was broken, then she wanted half my money, and then I hadn't even been on a date, and then it's go visit these porn starlets and watch a lot lot of videos.
Oh,
and
Lord.
that's gonna
And he
find.
was
Oh,
so
Lord.
nice.
Go
And we
find
did the
yourself.
interview at the Viceroy. You did such a beautiful thing. We went to the Viceroy, and the reason why I talked about some of the things I talked about was they rolled out the red carpet. They roped off this booth. They had
I think they're afraid of us
bottle
infecting
of open
everything. Yeah.
champagne waiting for me at the table, if you'll remember right. And
I
so
do.
I sat down at the table and I said, this is so kind and so beautiful and so thoughtful and so amazing. And I'm clean and sober. And I need to tell you that really quick. And I was joking, and I told a story to him because, he's such a great guy and he just makes you feel so comfortable. And I said something about, well, why'd you get sober or something like that? And I said, well, I started off slicing Peruvian rock and I wound up broken down with a bottle of Kamchatka in the bottom of my purse and a crack pipe in the bottom of my purse. And it was it was not that far from the truth, let's face it, but it was done in a way where you're tongue in cheek making a joke on yourself at your own expense. And it wound up on my Wikipedia page.
Oh.
They took it out of his story because he reprinted it, but it's supposed to be like, ha, 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 laugh at me. And they took it in the context of reality and they put it on my fucking Wikipedia page.
I think it's
And
a
it-
badge of courage
And
anymore.
people
We've
either
survived
walk
that.
up to
Yeah.
me and they do one of two things. Oh my God. Or they start laughing because they get the joke. But if they don't get the joke, they take it seriously. So guys, get over yourselves. It was whatever, but it's not that far from the truth.
Well,
Anyway,
as
just
a
wanted
writer,
to put that on record.
as a writer, one of the things, and as a person who's doing an autobiography, one of the things that's hardest as a writer yourself, it's you got to you got to out yourself at every point. You're
Yeah.
always outing yourself. It's you don't give a fuck what Aunt Mary thinks or who thinks that or
No.
what's going to, I mean,
Because
you got to
have to
tell
know
the truth.
You have to know who you are when you're writing. You
Right.
can't be scared of
So,
yourself.
right.
Did you
So
find-
if
That's
I
the whole
did all
thing.
that shit, it's just a good story.
Yeah,
Right.
because
You
know,
if
'cause
you're not
fuck
going
it,
to
I'm
be
here and I'm the
honest
one
about
writing.
yourself, you're not going to be honest about yourself and tell a story, then there's no point. Because
Yeah.
you got to get over that. Because a lot of
Because
people,
those people want something to read because they ain't doing that
that's
shit.
right, and you got to get out of your own way and not be worried
It's
about what they think of you.
entertainment.
And you have to know who you are and like who you are, even if it's the worst story the public can hear. You got to know who you are when you say it.
Daniel, I hear you say you were doing an autobiography as well?
Oh God, yeah, totally.
You definitely need to do an autobiography.
Totally. It's already written. I have it all done. It's ready. It's done. From I can't say what, but
The
it's my whole
Sager
thing.
Group helps authors publish stories.
Well, we'll see you soon.
TheSagerGroup.net. Please call us.
Hear him? Do you guys hear him out there? Any of you authors?
We do.
that are
I would.
listening?
Can I mention my publishing thing?
Absolutely. Mention it right now.
8 years ago, when it was early on in the publishing world, when self-publishing became a thing, I started a small company, and we did a textbook for journalism majors and readers, and we did a 2-day conference at the University of Missouri, where Brad Pitt, by the way, once studied journalism. I
Go
got
Brad
him back
Pitt.
in. But by now, there were like 5 guys there presenting this thing, and there was a whole, auditorium full of women. It was like 10% men.
Wow.
And the women sort of revolted against the book.
Really?
And they said, we're really fucking sick of like every time we're in a class, you're giving us 5 examples of stories by men that have been written. And, we're sick of this. And I'm getting the brunt of this. I'm had flown in with these people. I thought I was doing a good thing. They were saying journalism was dying. I was trying to save it with this book. And then now they're telling me, fuck you. And we did have 3 women. And, we tried to get women, but blah, blah, blah. So anyway, these 2 women came up to me, these 2 young women afterward, and they're like, as they'll later write it, they bopped me on the head with the program. And they said, we want to start a woman's thing. And I said, okay, I'll help you start something for that. And then I'm going to do something too. And so they started out. In the first book was called Newswomen. It was a collection of great women journalists from the olden days.
Mm-hmm.
And the 2 young women from Mizzou were the researchers. And with the money from that, they started their own publication called The Riveter. Now there's a 3rd volume coming out, and they're 8 years later the editors of that volume. And it collects all of the pretty much hot women journalists of today who are working in the magazine industry.
Was this like the precursor to the hashtag #MeToo group?
Well, it's funny. It's really crazy.
Right.
When we started this 8 years ago, the first thing that happened was this famous writer made a big gaffe at a conference in Boston, and then there started to be all this rumblings about there's nothing for it. We were already at work at on the stupid book, but it took 2 years. I'm like, oh, play, wait, It's hard to get your opportunities for PR if it's not done.
Hopefully one day this whole equality thing will stop a little bit.
Well, that's what one of the women say.
Stop it already.
That's what the women say consistently in the quotes that we've got. Someday maybe there won't we won't need a book, collecting women journalists. It'll just be about journalists.
I don't think things could ever be equal. I don't care how you put it. I don't care. I don't care about, people talk about salaries. Oh, I'm a woman. I get less than the guy. Da, da, da. I'm not talking about that. Equality to me is kind of like, I don't get the same equality you get.
Right.
And we're 2 guys. So I get treated differently than he does. So it just goes
You
the
have
way it
better
goes.
hair.
Well, he
You
has
don't
better.
know
He has
how
better
I
leg hair than me.
He has better hair. He has better hair than I do.
He has better
Right?
leg
I'm
hair,
competing with
Amber.
him, though. Right? He has better leg hair.
But no, I don't understand the whole equality thing. I get people feel slighted or whatever.
I think
but
it's a
I don't.
normalism, normalizing things along a continuum until these things don't matter to the next generation
world is changing
of
at a
people.
very rapid
I'm not
pace
Amber Lynn, and
nowadays.
Amber Lynn's not me. So whatever you get, you get.
Well,
Whatever I
think
get, I get.
That's the next iteration of this understanding. Like right now, everybody's got to be so on it, crazy on it. But then hopefully as people get used to it, it's like if you go to some seminar and you're coming back using all the terms, and then eventually, or you go to AA in the beginning and use all the terms, but later you learn how to be assimilated and still be from AA without giving everybody the lingo.
I mean,
And I
Amber's
think
book
that's
is going to be amazing.
Where are they going to get your books? Where do they go?
MikeSager.com.
Go to MikeSager.com.
Go now.
He's got all of his projects going on there, guys, and he's got the book, the 25th anniversary, and you can grab a copy of it. Also, it's on our blog. The information if you're out there and you can't make it to MikeSager.com because you can't spell,
SAGER.
go check it out, okay, at your leisure. And we're going to talk about that some more in a minute. But I want to get to Daniel's his new project. He's got a new show out, Trend Setting with Daniel DeCrisio.
Yeah.
And he's got one being dropped. What's the date on it?
It's going to be at the end of the month.
At the end of the month.
Yes.
Do you have a date, like a release date?
Mostly October 1st, really, because it's the distribution.
Oh, it's right now.
Yeah.
It's like right now.
Coming up next
so
week.
he's got a new show coming out
Mhm.
about politics that I don't subscribe
Hey,
to.
you know
but
what?
check it out, And
I'm really curious to see
I'm
this,
always
actually.
behind anything that Daniel does because let me tell you something. Every time I walk on a red carpet with Daniel, they literally walk past me to get to Daniel. It's freaking hilarious. Daniel has got a lot of attention. He knows how to get them going. So, and a new
Talking about attention, you're going to like this one. So I went to the Farrah Fawcett Foundation event. And, Melanie Griffith and
A hair
Jacqueline
event, if I've ever heard one.
Farrah is
man.
my
Oh,
god.
my
I'm
God.
sorry, Farrah's the god. But anyway, I'm still waiting to get replaced as her on Charlie's Angels. No, but anyway, so they came out now with one of those sites that made fun of everybody on it from that event. And I saw it the other night, and he was slamming Melanie Griffith up the ass. That poor thing. They were slamming her, slamming me with my wig on and all that kind of stuff. It's like, and then Ryan O'Neal with dentures. And then, it's like somebody put white out on their teeth. They said, it's just, I was like, only 6 people they trolled on. And I was one of them.
I was just talking about that on the CBS News piece we did. It's talking about how the internet and trolling is today. And it's just so awful. They're so awful.
I thought I looked hot.
Right?
No, I was kidding.
And they took a bunch of pictures.
As
They now
long
have
as
a
you
new-
looked hot,
they now have
that's
a new
all that
celebrity
matters.
site out there called Age.
Oh, that's right. Amber called me up all
It's called
flipping out.
Age Stock. And so when you let the paparazzi, and everybody gets all excited when the paparazzi are outside of a restaurant, we're all like, oh, hey, the pap's out there. Let's go say
Yeah,
hi.
especially
because
when they say your
good
name.
for them. It's good for the artist, right? And they put that stuff out there. And now once it's out, after 3 months, they put it on this thing called Age Stock Photo. And they print age all over, watermark your pictures all over you. Oh,
Amber
no.
didn't sit well with Amber. She
No,
called me up. She's like,
You know me. Was not happy about that one. Okay, and of course your haters are out there trending the photo.
I know,
So it'll
really.
reach the top of your Google search bar. But so you've got the show coming out. Any new music?
Well, the new music I told you is Chasing the Fame, which is going to be coming out. I had to put that on hold for a second because of the show. So that's coming out next. Chasing the Fame is my new song.
So next week he's going to have a premiere in New York City. You can get out there and say hi to Daniel. I hope
Yes.
you stop by and say hi
That's
to Roger
really
Paul.
amazing.
Oh, I will.
Daniel,
I'll go.
Daniel and I have the same mainstream acting agent. His name is Roger Paul at Roger Paul Inc. NYC. Shout out to Roger Paul.
Hey, Roger.
Got to send you some love too. And there you go.
That's it. Yeah. And
Any new dates with Punk Bunny or
none with him right now. They will
Uh-huh.
be coming up, but I will be doing shows myself, Daniel.
Okay.
So Daniel will be coming to you soon.
Daniel will be coming to you soon. And in the meantime, follow him.
Oh, DanielDeCrisio.net, and all my social media is Daniel DeCrisio. And, with my music, like I opened for Grace Jones, and I've done tours, and I've had the Real Housewives of Orange County as my backup dancers. I've done so many things with this. So get ready for my new one. So it'll be fun, my new
He's
music.
going to have some new music coming out soon. And
Grace
usually,
Jones.
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
we haven't talked about
She was
Grace Jones.
totally naked.
So
and
while we just have a couple of minutes left, and I usually don't do this, I usually don't turn the focus on me.
do it.
I just wanted to tell you because I promised the story, okay? Because it's just a little bit of a sneak peek of what's coming in my autobiography as well. And that shit is going to hit the fan. Speaking of this man right here, the devil in John Holmes. John Holmes, I worked on a movie called The Rise and Fall of the Roman Empire in Italy, in Rome, Italy. I was flown to Rome, Italy, and worked with Cicciolina, the woman that was a porn star that they made a member of the parliament, and John Holmes in a film there. John showed up on the set. John was HIV positive at the time, did not tell anybody that he was. On the set, when we were shooting the scene, he literally pushed me away from him, and I was like, thought he was being rude to me. I'll never forget that, because I thought he doesn't like me.
Yeah,
So
he
get away,
turned you
get your
off,
head away, or whatever during the scene. And what I guess he was trying to do was, save me from being infected by him or something. I don't know. I know Chicholina was not either, but I didn't learn the truth for many years until I was up in Canada in a relationship, and they called me and said this stuff about him.
Mhm.
So this is only one of the things that happened. And they asked me about it in another book, and they said, what do you have to say about that? And I said this. I said, one of the things I know about John is that he was a bad, bad addict. And being a former one myself, I know that we do things sometimes under the influence of substance abuse to people that we normally care about that we would not do if our faculties were in order. So on that note, I have to lay my forgiveness on the situation, but it was definitely an eye-opener. And that's all I have to say about that.
Amen.
Wow.
Right?
Amen,
Heavy.
sister.
Yeah. So if you want to read more about that.
Could I also do a
guy
shout out
yeah.
to two people
Yeah.
who are in our
'Cause
industry?
we're going to close the show right now.
Cool,
so.
man. Quickly, Cass Paley,
Cass Paley.
a good friend of all. He's been recovering his health, and he's got a film out called WAD, a documentary. And also, I'm working on a new book with Tom Byron, our friend Tom Byron.
Wow. So that's
I
more
wanted to say hello to Tommy over there on Rochester.
There you go. More to come. Guess what, folks? That's all the time we have for tonight's show. I want to thank our amazing guests before we go. Daniel DeCrisio, one more time. Thank you so much for
I
coming
had a blast
tonight.
again one more time, and it was so nice meeting him as well.
That's right. And you can
And,
reach out to Daniel DeCrisio at
Do
all
these
the
books
social
come with a
medias.
roller?
Yes. Also, Mike Sagar.
14 inches.
Follow Mike Sagar at MikeSagar.com. He's got the John Holmes book out there right now. He's also got plenty of stuff going on at all times. Thank you to CBS News for being in the house tonight. And they're doing a piece on us as well. And join us again next week for another amazing episode of Rockin' Sexy Uncensored.
Thanks to Amber.
Irreverent, entertaining, cool. You're listening to LA Talk Radio. You're listening to Amber Lynn, Rockin' Sexy Uncensored, only on LA Talk Radio.